Hello, my name is Christopher. I've got a book to share with you. This is The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4, by Sue Townsend. And I read this book a couple weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. So on the front it said, I have no idea where I got this book. It just kind of showed up in the house. I think it came from my third grader. I think she brought it home from like a library discard sort of thing. But anyway, it was just sitting there and I had no idea what it was. And on the front it says, part Woody Allen, part a kindred spirit to the heroes of Philip Roth's early novellas, Adrian inspires a warmth and affection, and as sad and devastating as it is laugh out loud funny, a delight. And I agree with the end of that it inspires a rare warmth and affection, and as sad and devastating as a laugh out loud funny delight. The Woody Allen, Philip Roth, I don't really know. I've read one Philip Roth book, and I don't even remember what it was called. And I think I've seen one Woody Allen movie. So I don't know. Maybe that's true. But one thing I did hear in this a lot was Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I think it's Jeff Kinney is the author of that. I think Jeff Kinney was inspired by this book for sure. Yeah, a lot of it just read very similar, but a little bit older. Like Adrian Mole here is 13 3/4, and we follow him through diary entries for about a year and a quarter. Goes through March, and this is set in, I think it's 1981 in the UK. Now in 1981, I was 6, 7, 8 years old, somewhere around there, and I lived in Alaska, so I have no idea whether or not this is true to UK in 1981, but I sort of hope it was, because it was really fun to be immersed in this. I read it in about 2 days, I think. Anyway, it's all journal entries, and Adrian Mole is really funny in this book, and he's going through a really hard time in his life, very difficult. And we hear about it, and he's extremely judgmental in the diary. Some reviews said that he's kind of a butthead, and that they don't like him very much. I liked him immensely, and he says a lot of rotten things in here, but he does amazing things with the people in his life, and you can tell he's a good person despite the things that he's telling his secret diary. Secret diary. You should be able to vent a little bit, I would say. So I'm going to read a little excerpt out of here to give you kind of an idea. This is 34 pages in, and it's a short book, 180 pages or so it shouldn't be too spoilery. Thursday, March 5th. My father got his car back from the garage today. He was cleaning it and gloating over it for a whole 2 hours. I noticed that the stick-on waving hand I bought him for Christmas was missing from the rear window. I told him he ought to complain to the garage, but he said he didn't want to make a fuss. We went to Grandma's to test drive the car. She gave us a cup of Bovril and a piece of yucky seed cake. I don't know what Bovril or seed cake is exactly. She didn't She didn't ask how my mother was. She said my father looked thin and pale and needed feeding up. She told me that Bert Baxter had been thrown out of the Evergreens because of his bad behavior at Skegness. The coach was waiting for 2 hours for him at the coach station. A search party was sent out to look in the pubs. Then Bert came back, drunk, but alone, and another search party was sent out to look for the first search party. In the end, the police had to be sent for and took hours to round up all the pensioners and get them to the coach. My grandma said that the journey back was a nightmare. All the pensioners kept falling out with each other, not out of the coach. Bert Baxter was reciting a dirty poem about an Eskimo and Mrs. Harriman, and had a funny turn and had to have her corsets loosened. Grandma said that 2 pensioners had passed on since the outing. She blamed Bert Baxter and said he's as good as murdered them. But I think it's more likely that the cold wind of Skegness killed them off. That's what Adrian says. I said, Bert Baxter's not so bad when you get to know him. She said she didn't understand why the good Lord took my granddad and left scum like Baxter. Then she pulled her lips tight and dabbled her eyes with her handkerchief. So we left. My mother was out when we got home. She has joined some women's group. Heard my father saying goodnight to the car. He must be cracking up. Anyway, I found this very charming, and there's a lot of stuff like that, and it's a lot of teenager stuff as well. And so this particular one, it says it's property of the Fort Vancouver Regional Library, and I wonder if I need to return it. Now it's an Avon book, and the pages are beautifully yellowed, and the spine is about to crack. And I kind of want to keep it. Maybe I'll call over, but I'm pretty sure it was a discard. And if not, I'm pretty sure they would. There's a purple sticker on the spine. So someone chose this book at some point for some purpose that involves a purple star. So I like that very much. Anyway, great book. There is a interview with Sue Townsend that I saw recently after reading, and I found it pretty good. She said that she was definitely trying to capture the time of the 80s during Margaret Thatcher's administration and during a time of a lot of unemployment in the UK. So if you've read this book, I think it was very famous back at that time. Please let me know. I'm anxious to know if this is... Should I read book 2? Is this a good representation of early 80s UK? Let me know. It's I enjoyed it. I read it in order to spark my interest in reading again, because I'd been stuck in video games for a little while, and I needed to get something easy to read. And as soon as I started reading it, I couldn't put it down. So, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4, by Sue Townsend. And this is an Avon book. I think it's published in the early 80s. Last thing. Published in 1982. Yeah. So there you go. Happy reading.